In the late summer of 1968, the waters off North Bimini were calm and clear, the kind of day divers hope for but never expect. A small group of explorers had come to the Bahamas looking for something else entirely. They were scanning the shallow seabed for signs of shipwrecks when something unusual caught their attention. Just beneath the surface, resting in about 15 to 20 feet of water, lay a long line of stone blocks. They were large, flat, and oddly uniform. Even more striking was how they appeared to curve gently, like a road following the edge of the sea. At first glance, the stones did not look dramatic. They were not towering ruins or carved statues. They were simple slabs, some measuring up to 4 meters across, arranged end to end. But the longer the divers looked, the stranger it felt. Natural rock formations rarely line up so neatly. And here, stretching for nearly half a mile along the ocean floor, was something that looked deliberate, something placed. This discovery would soon be known as the Bimini Road, one of the most talked about sunken structures ever found in shallow water. Within months, it became linked to one of the oldest legends in human history, Atlantis. The timing mattered. During the 1960s, interest in ancient mysteries was growing fast. Space exploration was changing how people viewed the past and the future at the same time. Books about lost civilizations were selling widely, and underwater archaeology was still a young field. When news spread that a possible road or wall had been found beneath the sea near the Bahamas, curiosity turned into excitement almost overnight. One reason the Bimini Road drew so much attention was its location. Bimini sits on the edge of the Great Bahama Bank, a vast underwater plateau that would have been dry land during the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. Some writers had already suggested this area as a possible home of a submerged civilization. So when these stone blocks were found, the story seemed to fall into place for many people. Among the early voices linking the site to Atlantis was Edgar Cayce, a well-known American mystic who had died years before the discovery. Cayce had predicted that evidence of Atlantis would rise near Bimini in the late 1960s. His followers saw the stone formation as proof that his visions were real. Newspapers picked up the angle, and soon the Bimini Road was no longer just an underwater curiosity. It was being described as a gateway to a lost world. Divers returned again and again, taking photographs and measurements. From above, the stones appeared arranged in a single line, with smaller stones sometimes wedged beneath larger ones, almost like supports. To the untrained eye, this looked like human construction. Some compared it to ancient roads or harbor walls found in the Mediterranean. Others suggested it might be the remains of a breakwater, built to protect a shoreline that no longer existed. As interest grew, so did the need for careful study. In the early 1970s, geologists began to examine the site in detail. They measured the stones, studied their composition, and mapped their layout. What they found added complexity to the story rather than closing it. The blocks were made of limestone, the same material found naturally across the Bahamas. More specifically, they were composed of beach rock, a type of limestone that forms along shorelines when sand and shell fragments become cemented together by minerals. Beach rock often forms in flat layers and can break into rectangular shapes over time. This was an important detail because it offered a natural explanation for why the stones looked so uniform. Geologists also noticed that the stones varied in thickness and size. Some were cracked, others tilted, and many showed signs of erosion consistent with long exposure to waves and currents. There were no tool marks, no carvings, no signs of mortar. From a scientific standpoint, nothing about the stones required human involvement to explain their shape or placement. Still, questions remained. Beach rock usually forms parallel to shorelines, but why did this formation curve so smoothly? Why did some blocks seem stacked or aligned in ways that felt intentional? And if it was natural, why was this particular site so visually striking compared to other beach rock formations? Underwater archaeology teams conducted surveys using sonar and careful diving methods. They mapped not only the main line of stones but also nearby formations that looked similar. In some areas, they found additional lines of beach rock, broken and scattered, suggesting that the Bimini Road might be part of a larger natural pattern rather than an isolated structure. Carbon dating was also attempted, though this proved difficult. Beach rock can be tricky to date accurately because it forms over time and can incorporate older materials. Some early tests produced dates that were misunderstood or overstated in popular media. Later analysis suggested the stones formed thousands of years ago, but well within known geological timelines for natural shoreline processes. Despite this, the debate did not fade. Part of the reason was the power of images. Photos of the Bimini Road, taken in clear tropical water, spread through magazines and television documentaries. The stones looked clean, almost arranged. Viewers were invited to decide for themselves whether they were seeing nature or design. And once an idea like a lost underwater city takes hold, it is hard to fully let go. Another factor was the language used to describe the site. Words like road, wall, and structure shaped how people imagined it. These terms suggested purpose and planning, even when scientists preferred neutral descriptions. Over time, the Bimini Road became a symbol of unexplained ruins, a case study in how easily natural formations can feel meaningful when viewed through the lens of ancient mystery. By the end of the 1970s, most geologists agreed that the Bimini Road was a natural formation. But agreement in science does not always end public fascination. The site remained accessible, shallow enough for recreational divers. New visitors continued to see it with fresh eyes, often without reading the detailed research that came before. The Bimini Road settled into a strange place between explanation and wonder. It was no longer a new discovery, but it was never fully dismissed in the public imagination. It became one of the most famous deep-sea mystery sites, not because it resisted study, but because its simple appearance left room for interpretation. As research continued and methods improved, attention slowly shifted from bold claims to careful observation. And it is in those details, how the stones formed, how they fractured, and how the sea reshaped them over time, that the real story of the Bimini Road begins to take shape, piece by piece, beneath the shallow waters of the Bahamas. As the initial excitement settled, researchers began returning to the Bimini Road with quieter goals. Instead of searching for proof of Atlantis, they focused on understanding the geology of the Bahamas itself. This shift changed the tone of the investigation. The stones were no longer clues in a legend, but samples in a much older story written by the sea. The Great Bahama Bank is a wide, shallow platform made mostly of limestone. For thousands of years, it has been shaped by rising and falling sea levels. During the last ice age, around 20,000 years ago, much of this area was dry land. Shorelines existed where open water now lies. Waves broke, sand moved, and beach rocks slowly formed along those ancient coasts. When the ice melted and sea levels rose, those shorelines drowned, leaving their hardened remains underwater. This context matters because it explains why beach rock can appear in long, straight lines. It forms where waves repeatedly wash over sand, locking grains together into flat slabs. Over time, stress causes these slabs to crack along natural lines of weakness. The result can be large rectangular blocks that look cut, even though they are not. In places like the Bahamas, these formations are not rare. They are just usually hidden, broken apart, or buried. At Bimini, the conditions happen to preserve one section unusually well. The stones lie in shallow water with relatively gentle currents. Instead of scattering, they stayed close to where they formed. Some blocks slipped slightly out of place, creating small gaps. Others tilted or stacked when the ground beneath them shifted. To someone swimming above, this could easily look like intentional placement. In the 1980s and 1990s, teams led by geologists such as Eugene Shin studied the site closely. Shin, who worked with the U.S. Geological Survey, compared the Bimini stones to modern beach rock forming along active shorelines. He found strong similarities in texture, layering, and chemical makeup. In some cases, the match was nearly exact. One of the most discussed features was the so-called curb stones, smaller rocks that appear to sit beneath larger slabs, almost like support blocks. To some observers, this felt like engineering. But Shin and others pointed out that beach rock often breaks unevenly. When large slabs fracture, pieces can slide underneath each other, especially when waves or storms disturb the seabed. Over centuries, small shifts can create patterns that look planned but are not. Another question involved alignment. Why did the stones follow such a smooth curve? The answer may lie in the shape of the ancient shoreline itself. Coastlines are rarely straight. They bend, rise, and fall with the land. If the Bimini Road marks the edge of an old beach, its curve could simply reflect the natural shape of that coast thousands of years ago. Underwater surveys help test this idea. Using sonar and direct observation, researchers mapped similar formations nearby. They found parallel lines of beach rock, some broken, some buried under sand. These additional features supported the view that the Bimini Road was part of a larger natural system, not an isolated construction. Still, the site resisted closure. One reason was that underwater archaeology is slow and limited. Visibility changes. Sand shifts. Full excavation is rarely possible, especially when there is no agreement on what should be uncovered. Unlike a land-based ruin, the Bimini Road could not be easily cleared or rebuilt for study. Much of it remained exactly as it was found, open to interpretation. Media coverage continued to play a major role. Television specials often presented both sides but framed the mystery in dramatic ways. Music, imagery, and selective quotes made the stones feel more enigmatic than the research suggested. For viewers unfamiliar with geology, the idea of a lost underwater city was far more engaging than slow-forming limestone. Tourism added another layer. Dive operators advertised trips to the Bimini Road, sometimes hinting at its legendary connections. Divers arrived with expectations already set. When people believe they are seeing ancient ruins, their brains work hard to confirm that belief. This does not mean they are dishonest. It means human perception is deeply shaped by story. Over time, the Bimini Road became a lesson in how unexplained ruins are created not just by physical objects, but by interpretation. The stones themselves did not change. What changed was how they were talked about, photographed, and remembered. Scientific papers reached small audiences. Television reached millions. By the early 2000s, most professional geologists considered the case closed. The Bimini Road was classified as a natural beach rock formation. It appeared in textbooks and lectures as an example of how nature can mimic design. But outside academic circles, the debate lived on. Online forums, documentaries, and books continued to question the official explanation, often repeating early claims without revisiting later research. What makes the Bimini Road enduring is not that it defies explanation, but that it sits at the edge of what feels possible. It lies underwater where humans are not meant to live. It looks ordered where we expect chaos. It connects to a story as old as Plato, even if that connection is thin. These elements combine to keep curiosity alive. Today, the stones remain where they have always been, resting quietly beneath clear Bahamian water. Fish move between the gaps. Algae coats the surfaces. Time continues its slow work. The road does not lead anywhere, and perhaps it never did. But it has led generations of people into questions about how we recognize the past, and how easily mystery can grow when science and imagination meet beneath the sea. When you're ready, we can continue into the next part, where we look more closely at how Atlantis became tied to this place, and why that idea proved so powerful, even in the face of careful study. Long before the Bimini Road entered public conversation, Atlantis already had a long and complicated history. The story begins with Plato, writing around 360 BCE. In two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, he described a powerful island civilization that existed thousands of years before his time. According to Plato, Atlantis was wealthy, technologically advanced, and eventually destroyed by earthquakes and floods in a single day and night. He placed it somewhere beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a phrase often linked to the Strait of Gibraltar. Plato never claimed Atlantis was a historical record in the modern sense. Many scholars believe he used the story as a moral lesson about pride and collapse. Still, over the centuries, readers treated Atlantis as something more literal. As maps improved and oceans were explored, people began searching for it in real locations. By the 20th century, Atlantis had been proposed everywhere from the Mediterranean to Antarctica. This is where Bimini entered the story. In the early 1900s, Edgar Cayce made a series of trance-based statements that later became widely published. Cayce claimed Atlantis was real and that parts of it would rise again near Bimini. He gave dates that pointed loosely toward the late 1960s. When the stone formation was discovered in 1968, many people felt the timing was too perfect to ignore. For Cayce's followers, the Bimini Road was not just a geological feature. It was confirmation. Books and lectures quickly linked his predictions to the stones. This connection spread faster than the scientific response, shaping how the public first learned about the site. Once Atlantis entered the conversation, it became almost impossible to remove. Writers began proposing detailed scenarios. Some suggested the stones were the remains of a harbor wall. Others imagined a ceremonial road leading into a larger submerged city. A few went further, claiming the blocks were cut and placed using advanced tools lost to history. These ideas were often presented without direct evidence, but they found eager audiences. Underwater archaeology struggled to compete with the appeal of these stories. The real process of research, slow dives, measurements, samples, and comparisons, did not translate well to television or popular books. A neat line of stones was easy to show. Explaining sediment layers and shoreline chemistry was not. Scientists responded by publishing more data. Core samples taken near the stones showed natural layering. Chemical tests matched known beach rock formation processes. In some areas, similar formations were found still forming today along active beaches. These findings were clear, but they required patience to understand. One important clarification involved scale. The Bimini Road is impressive when seen up close, but it does not show signs of urban planning. There are no intersecting streets, no foundations, no artifacts such as tools or pottery. Ancient cities, even very old ones, leave debris. At Bimini, nothing like that has been found. Another issue was dating. Claims circulated that the stones were over 10,000 years old, aligning neatly with Plato's timeline. But these claims often came from misunderstood tests or secondary sources. When dating methods were applied carefully, results suggested formation during known geological periods consistent with natural shoreline development, not human construction. Still, the Atlantis idea remained attractive because it filled gaps in knowledge. The sea hides evidence. Submerged civilizations do exist, such as Heraclean in Egypt or Pavlopetri in Greece. These real examples made it easier to imagine that something similar could lie off Bimini. The difference is that those sites contain clear human artifacts. Bimini does not. By the 1990s and early 2000s, the conversation shifted again. The internet allowed older claims to resurface without context. Early photos were reposted without newer research. The same questions were asked again, often by people encountering the mystery for the first time. The Bimini Road became part of a growing online culture of unexplained ruins and lost underwater cities. This repetition kept the mystery alive, but it also flattened it. Nuance was lost. The site was either proof of Atlantis or evidence of scientific denial, depending on who was speaking. The more careful middle ground, where natural explanations can still feel fascinating, was harder to maintain. What often gets overlooked is that geology itself tells a dramatic story. The Bimini Road records a moment when sea levels were different, when coastlines existed where open water lies now. It preserves the shape of an ancient shore, frozen in stone and lowered by time. That alone makes it valuable even without legends attached. Underwater archaeology today continues to improve. New mapping tools, better imaging, and more precise dating methods help clarify sites like Bimini. Each advancement reduces uncertainty, but it also reminds us how much the ocean still holds. Mystery does not always mean the absence of explanation. Sometimes it means understanding something well enough to see how extraordinary ordinary processes can be. The Bimini Road remains a meeting point between science and story. It shows how quickly meaning can be assigned, how hard it is to remove, and how human curiosity fills silence with imagination. The stones themselves remain unchanged, but what we see in them continues to evolve. By the time the Bimini Road had settled into public awareness, underwater archaeology itself was changing. In the decades after the discovery, the tools used to study submerged sites became far more precise. Sonar mapping improved. GPS allowed exact positioning. Divers could document sites in detail without disturbing them. These advances mattered because they shifted attention away from speculation and back toward evidence. At Bimini, this meant placing the stones into a wider environmental picture. Researchers began asking not what the formation looked like, but how similar formations behaved elsewhere. Along the coasts of Florida, the Bahamas, and parts of the Caribbean, active beach rock continues to form today. In some places, it hardens quickly. In others, it fractures into blocks that look strikingly similar to those at Bimini. When storms hit, slabs break, slide, and stack in ways that can appear purposeful when frozen in time. What makes the Bimini Road stand out is not that it is unique, but that it is unusually well exposed. Many comparable formations are buried under sand or broken apart by stronger wave action. At Bimini, the shallow depth and relatively stable conditions preserved one section in a clean, readable line. Nature rarely offers such clear displays of its own process. Underwater archaeologists also consider context. When human-made structures sink, they tend to leave patterns. Tools fall. Debris spreads. Construction methods repeat. At Bimini, none of this appears. The stones are not cut to consistent sizes. They do not interlock. There are no associated artifacts. For professionals trained to recognize submerged civilizations, these absences matter as much as what is present. Still, the Bimini Road continues to be visited, filmed, and discussed. That ongoing attention reveals something important about how humans relate to the past. We are drawn to boundaries. Shorelines between land and sea. Moments between known and unknown. The Bimini Road sits exactly at one of those boundaries. It is shallow enough to see clearly, yet underwater enough to feel hidden. Explained enough to be studied, yet strange enough to feel unresolved. In this way, the mystery is less about the stones and more about perception. When people dive at the site, they bring expectations with them. Some arrive after reading scientific papers. Others come after watching documentaries about Atlantis. The same stones can feel ordinary or profound depending on the story carried into the water. This is why the Bimini Road remains relevant in discussions of ancient ocean discoveries and unexplained ruins. It shows how easily natural formations can become symbols. It also shows how difficult it is to correct early narratives once they spread widely. Even today, articles and videos often repeat early claims without mentioning later research. The mystery refreshes itself with each new audience. From a scientific standpoint, the case is largely settled. The Bimini Road fits within known geological processes. It does not require lost civilizations or unknown technology. But from a cultural standpoint, it remains open. It lives in books, online debates, and dive tours. It exists not only underwater but in the space between evidence and belief. There is also value in restraint. Modern archaeology has learned that not every striking feature needs a dramatic explanation. Sometimes the most interesting stories are about how landscapes change, how sea levels rise, and how traces of ancient environments survive beneath the waves. These stories are quieter, but they are no less meaningful. The Bimini Road tells us that submerged landscapes can look intentional even when they are not. It reminds us that humans are pattern-seeking by nature. When we see order, we assume design. When we find it underwater, we add mystery. This instinct is not a flaw. It is part of curiosity. But curiosity works best when paired with patience. Today, the stones remain where they formed, slowly weathering as they have for thousands of years. No new excavations are planned. No dramatic revelations are expected. And yet, the site continues to draw attention not because it hides answers, but because it asks quiet questions about how we understand the past. The Bimini Road does not lead to Atlantis. It leads to something more grounded and perhaps more interesting. A clearer view of how natural forces shape the world, and how easily stories grow around what we do not immediately understand. In that sense, it earns its place among the world's most talked about underwater mysteries, not as a lost road to a forgotten city, but as a mirror reflecting how we search for meaning beneath the sea.